Now that you know our little, well, let's call it an origin story, I think it's about time I start introducing you to the hotel's managers. We are the 13 Guardians of Reality, originally powerless humans that discovered magic, taken in by the ruler of the Crimson Kingdom, only to see it be almost completely destroyed. But was saved by a woman in black who trapped the kingdom's would-be destroyer using 13 keys of reality that she passed down onto us, giving us newfound abilities, knowledge, and eternal youth to ensure that these elements are protected forever. My name is Ray, but most call me the Void of Space now. In fact, the only person who refers to me as Ray these days is my brother, and honestly, I kinda prefer that. My brother and I discovered the power of magic before we were even given our keys. He discovered time magic, as I discovered space magic. This was only because my brother discovered magic by performing a few hand gestures that I just couldn't get right. The woman in black must have known about our power, as she gave my brother the key of time, and me the key of space. My powers allow me to change the weight of gravity of certain objects and the force of gravity within a certain radius. I can do this to mimic the power of flight, when in actuality, I'm just changing the gravity around me. If I was ever surrounded and needed to defend myself, I could summon shooting stars and asteroids to wipe out what's in my path. I can also create black holes to help others escape, let's say a collapsing building, or teleport at will. This may all sound great, but it's not like my powers don't come with any limitations. You may be confused by this, as I am the Guardian of Space itself. If I was given the responsibility to protect all of space, then shouldn't I be as strong as the true gods? Well, that's what I originally thought. Most likely, there was a true god of space, but with the exception of True Fear, all of the other true gods were killed. And of course, I'm far from worthy enough to take a true god's spot. That's approaching my limitations through moral logic. If I had to take another guess, then I'd assume that our lack of true powers comes from the idea that we're meant to be guardians of the elements and their keys, not the living. That was the responsibility of the true gods. But since they're no longer here, we must do whatever we can to also protect the living as they would've. With that being said, we don't need godly powers to protect the keys, but we do have to work with our limitations if we want to multitask. Just to list some of the limits that my powers have, it's harder for me to make drastic changes to the gravity of larger objects. The bigger the object, the more difficult it will be to either lower or raise their weight. My gravity-changing radiuses allow less changes if the radius is too big. The asteroids and shooting stars I can create are only slightly smaller than my own body, which admittedly is not that big to begin with. And I can only create exits to black holes and teleport to places I've already been to before and have a good memory of. I also have to keep my mask on at all times. I can't say why, as that would be giving away a bit too much information. So let's just say that it's used to control a certain diet. Now that you know what I can do, how about I tell you about how I use these powers to make a discovery for the Crimson Kingdom. Now, why do I keep mentioning the Crimson Kingdom like that? As if it was the only place I can share new ideas. Are we hiding information from the other kingdoms? Well, we can't hide information from something that no longer exists. After we gained our keys that fateful day, the Night of Light demanded us to search for survivors who may need help. I and other guardians like the Messenger of the Sky can make great distances in a short amount of time, so we decided to search around the kingdom's radius. As soon as I finally reached the border, my attention was quickly brought to even more destruction. This destruction could not be repaired or saved, however. There's a reason why we didn't hear from Ma or Pa. The Crimson Kingdom is not the first place True Fear attacked. In fact, it was the last. All other locations were corrupted by True Fear's distortion to the point where they were nothing more than floating rubble and warped bended buildings. Formations like this couldn't exist, unless something like True Fear was behind it. But I had to focus. I decided to immediately warp back to where we gathered and was just able to catch one of the other guardians to tell them what I saw. The messenger also flew back in a panic, telling us what we just saw and that these distorted pieces were disappearing. But True Fear was locked away, so how can this chaos still continue? We wouldn't find out until much later. A few months have passed, and the researcher of magic finally discovered what happened. True Fear's distortion not only destroyed the rest of our world, but the entire universe as well. The Crimson Kingdom is all that's left in our plane of existence. But these other pieces aren't completely gone. No, they're being repurposed. Whether that be by True Fear somehow manipulating things from behind that door, which shouldn't even be possible, or by nature itself. These pieces left our universe to form new ones. This started a chain reaction which is still going on to this day, but on a different scale. These newly born universes were completely different from any location in ours, despite being formed by pieces and structures from our home. And new universes would keep forming even if all of the pieces of ours were depleted. The researcher would keep an eye on these universes and study them as much as he could. He wanted answers, and to be fair, so did we. We didn't know much then, but we did know this. We were no longer alone, as the multiverse was born that day, and now we have another title to go by. While some still call us the Guardians of Reality, most nowadays call us the Guardians of the Multiverse.